Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today, I have joining me North Georgia Audit.
Hello.
How are you? I did notice when I made the thumbnail and the stream yesterday, I had North Georgia Audits on everything, and then I went back and changed it.
Yeah, I
How,
saw the extra S on there. Yeah.
yeah, you should have told me. I'm
Nah,
famous
I was
for
gonna let it
making
be.
mistakes. Okay. Well, I did fix that. How are you doing today, Shane?
Not too bad. I'm okay. One day at a time. How are you?
I'm pretty good. So I wanted to I'll just tell a little background of how we met, and then I will say hello to everybody in the chat. This will give people time to kind of mosey on in here. So I was on Fraud Wrangler's stream 2 weeks, was it 2 weeks ago, about 2 or 3 weeks
Roundabout.
ago. And he was talking about you. And the reason he had me come on is because I too live in North Georgia. So he said, "Hey, Katie." Katie said, "Why don't you come on and talk about this new frauditor?" And, he's from North Georgia, just like you. And you popped up in the chat. And we went back and forth a little bit. He did not have you up on panel or anything. But the thing that really struck me about you is your honesty. And I believe that every single person on this planet makes mistakes in their life. We're all sinners, right? And then you made an admission in the chat. He was making fun of your tattoo, your wonderful neck tattoo. Other side. Is it the other side?
No, it's this.
Oh, that's okay. So you have Colonel Sanders tattooed on your neck, and he was making fun of that. Yes. And quite with the most amount of honesty in his chat, you said, "I was young and dumb and on drugs, and I got that tattoo." And I'm like, I think I'm going to like this guy. So we ended up emailing back and forth, and you have a very interesting story that is perfect for my true crime channel. So we're going to get into that in a little bit, but let's first say hello to everybody in the chat. I have a couple of announcements, and we're going to talk about your YouTube channel first.
Sure.
So in the chat today, we have Salacious. Good to see you. We spoke a little bit earlier. Salacious, News Now Enemy, and Karen number 2 are my mods on this channel. And just because I know there's going to be some new people here who have just subbed to me. I just went over the 2,000 mark, guys. Big party next Sunday at this time, by the way, for the 2,000 mark and my birthday. We'll celebrate that then. But there's new people here. So there's 3 rules that I like to keep to in my chat. Number 1 is no taking the Lord's name in vain. No blasphemy, no sex stuff. If you're saying sex stuff to me or any other ladies in the chat, that is a bannable offense. And no spamming the chat. So obviously robots and stuff come in here and are plugging their stuff. You guys can ban those guys right away. Mean words on the screen is not going to hurt anybody. So if you can't handle mean words on a screen, you should probably log off the internet and go outside or something. And I think that's about it. If I see something that I want banned, I will say something, and you 3 can race to see who can swing that wrench fastest. So, Salacious, good to see you. Jerry's here. Horatius, always good to see you. Horatius is a big contributor to the show in that he gives me all my news stories that I talk about. Who else is here? Major Wrench McNome. I think you're a new face. Oh yeah, it says you just subbed here from KFAR stream the other day. Good to see you. Parson 1122. Always good to have you around. Nova Photographics. You're fairly new. You've been to a couple of streams, but you also are in North Georgia. I found out the other day when we were talking about Georgia. So nice to have another Georgia person in the house. Bandit 2804. Is here. Number 2 is here. Scrolling. As more people come in, I will say hi to more people. Unclean Hands just got here as well. Horatius, the C word. I guess it depends on the context, but I think YouTube will ban that word. I don't even think I have to do any of that. I think YouTube just automatically bans the C word, which is weird, Shane, that the C word in the United States is a very bad word and people should not use it. But in other parts of the world, it's just
commonplace.
It's totally common.
Yeah.
Like if you go to Australia or even England, they just use it like you would use the B word. Yeah, I'm not sure. Real quick, I want to say a couple of things, and I'll go over this again when more people are here as well. Even though my co-host Zena is not on the screen right now because her camera is not working, if you make a donation at any time during the stream, we won't stop. When we get to a stopping point, we will give Zena a milk bone. And you can do that YouTube called me up and they told me that I'm ugly and my feet smell, so they didn't want to monetize me. So I'm demonetized on YouTube, but you can go to www.buymeacoffee.com/KDZ and Zena will get a milk bone. I have them right here. Ready for her. And since her camera's messing up today, I will call her over and give her a milk bone for you guys. And I appreciate every single donation that you do make. I'm not in this for the money, but it makes my setup better. Every time you guys donate anything at all, I get new I started off with a laptop and an $18 microphone, and now I have 3 screens. I have a good microphone. I have an audio interface and like all of this stuff that you guys bought for me. So I appreciate that. And it's just going to get better and better. So, I almost forgot. In the description below, there's a link. My friend Freda is doing a fundraiser for veterans. And if you like this shirt, which you should follow this rule all the time, it says, be there, be kind. You should definitely do that. And also there's a link in the chat for the t-shirts that she's selling. There's all different kinds, and 100% of the donations go to help veterans. It's a veterans foundation. Man, I should have had this pulled up. Let me plug her thing real quick. I gotta find it. Give me 1 second. I put it in my own description, and then I forgot to keep it up on the. Hold on, I'm getting there as fast as I can. You guys know how I am with pressing buttons in the correct order. It doesn't always work out for me, but I get there eventually. All right, here we go. So all of the money goes to the Freedom Alliance. And like you can see here, she's got several different designs. This is the one that I got, obviously, because it's in my signature color. I had to get that one. And like I said, 100% of it goes to this Freedom Alliance. And I think it's a wonderful thing that she's doing, for sure. You can find her show at Finding the Faith with Freda. I've been on her show before, so there's definitely an episode with me in here. Towards the beginning, I was one of her first guests. There I am right there. Check that out. It's called Catholic Conversations with Crimeland Queen, Katie Zed. That's a mouthful. All of those links are down there in the description, and I always would appreciate it if you support my friends. On with the show. Oh, I almost forgot. I have a merch store now, too. I almost forgot. I set up a merch store today, and you can get to that. I have mugs. I have shirts. There's Crimeland stuff. There is Overruled stuff. And I will put the merch store link right there. I need to figure out how to set it up where it's like my Shopify/KDZ. I haven't gotten that far yet, guys, but there is a link in the description if you would like to have a shirt. If you use discount code XENA, XENA, for the first month, everybody gets 10% off. All right, that's all the plugs I'm going to do. We will do one more round of plugging stuff. That sounded bad. We will do one more round of plugs towards the end of the show, but I hate it when people are just plugging. So I get it over with at the beginning, and then when more people are here, we will do more. Shane, thank you for sitting through all that with me.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
I'm here for the long haul.
You have a channel called North Georgia Audit.
Or you two say North Georgia Fraud. It's okay.
North Georgia Fraud. Georgia Audit. And you just started out about 3 months ago, from what I can see. You don't have very many videos up there. But why did you get started with this? What prompted you to log into YouTube and decide to start uploading?
The story we're going to talk about has a lot of bearing on it. I think it's a way for me to somehow feel like I've gotten some kind of control back over them, with them having control over me. Like we'll get into that, but the other part of it was boredom, therapy. There's a lot of answers to that question. The very first one that I uploaded would be in the prison audit. That it felt to me that I wanted to do a story about the prison. There's a lot of things about that prison people don't know. It was they have huge, awesome things for the inmates, such as fire training for the inmates. They can become certified firefighters before they come out of prison. There's other things about the prison that are really interesting, and it kind of started that way. But I knew the outcome. I knew that I was going to get shut down by the facility. I knew that it was going to turn into what it turned into, obviously. But the reason why is mainly I kind of feel like it gives me some control back in my life, where I've spent a lot of time without control, and when authorities had control over me.
And we're going to get into that story. You spent 2.5 years in jail, so I can understand that sort of instinct to push back against authority, and pushing back against authority is what brought you to the attention of the internet in general, of the frauditor community. I guess we're a community, auditor and frauditor community. Has any of the other First Amendment auditors reached out to you at all?
Yeah, Jeff Gray, a couple of other, mid-level guys that have, hundreds of thousands of subscribers.
Oh, wow.
I've reached out and talked. They've featured a few other videos. The prison videos just got featured again. Outside of that, mainly them. And then I did a lot of the frauditor community interacting with me as well, which I don't mind, to be honest with you. I would say I've told you this before, but Fraudit Wrangler is the one that I paid attention to the most when my video went viral. And I actually agree with him on a lot of things. And I agree with KFAR and, the few others that I've seen. I can agree with them on many things. And then there's some basic principles and basic laws that we all disagree on, I think. But, I don't hate anybody.
I think that living in an echo chamber is boring. So I don't agree with any single person 100%. I don't even agree with myself 100%. My beliefs from 5 years ago are probably not my beliefs now. So being able to grow and change is very important. And it seems like you're open to that.
I am, yeah.
Just the conversations that we've had the last week or a couple weeks.
I'm open to criticism, and I'm open to praise. I'm open to all of
it. Yeah. So let me play this this very first video. This well, it's not it's the one that made you famous.
Ish.
And actually, I need to give me 1 second. I told you about pushing the buttons in the correct order and stuff. I just realized if I have somebody on, I have to share it a different way. Otherwise, there's a bad echo. So let me do it this way. This one. Okay, so I'm going to play the body cam of this interaction. And before we start, let's talk about, so you were just driving down the street and you saw this police officer, and you decided it would be a great idea to flip him off.
I went fishing.
You went fishing. So you were looking for a reaction this day.
I mean, I was hoping not to get one, but if he wanted to give me one, I was ready for it. I mean,
did you know this officer? Or was it just you just saw a police officer and flipped him off? Was it somebody you had interactions with before? Is I guess my question.
I'd had one interaction with him before that wasn't so good. It wasn't caught on camera or anything like that.
Okay.
I didn't get a ticket, but I witnessed him, kind of abusing his powers from what I gathered in another instance.
Okay, and I know I I don't remember where I get information, but I remember information entering my brain that this officer has a long list of grievances from other people. Like there's other, the community in general had issues with this officer abusing his power.
I pulled his jacket. He's got quite a few complaints on him.
Okay.
I was never going to post those, but it's something that I wanted to know,
Yeah. So you didn't know that when you flipped him off, it just happened to be, this is the guy you happen to flip off.
Just happened to be.
All right. So this is a 2-minute video. We're going to play that now, and then we'll talk about it some more. Oh, I guess there's no sound at the very.
You don't get a whole lot from this video here.
Okay, I'll pull the other one.
Yeah.
It is this one?
Yeah. Yes, that's his body cam. You get a lot more from that one.
Okay.
Tell me, what did I do to deserve that kind of behavior? Okay, you do, technically.
I don't have to give you my ID because this is an unlawful stop.
It's not an unlawful stop.
100% unlawful stop. I can flip you off all day long.
Okay. All right. Why are you getting so mad? Like, what did I do to deserve that from you? Just tell me that. All of us deserve that?
Until I know different. Yep.
Like, all of us as law
I was
enforcement?
kidnapped and held for ransom for 2.5 years by cops.
What did I do?
Until
did I
the
do
jury
that?
of my peers set me free.
Okay, so what did I do to deserve that?
Or not. I will do this all day long if I want to.
Okay, you're not going to do it while you're driving. I'm just telling you right now.
You want to write me a ticket for it?
I can. I don't want to, though.
I dare you to write me a ticket.
Look.
License, insurance, registration's on the back. Write me a ticket, motherfucker.
See, look at the language that you got right now. Like,
write me a ticket.
all right, so you changed the whole thing by calling me a motherfucker.
Can I go in?
You cannot get out of
I am going to have to frown upon your language.
I didn't understand that.
So sorry about the language, guys, but it's not me.
car.
Okay.
Don't get out of the car.
Get this shit over with.
Now you're sitting here talking.
You can't be a complaining party in a disorderly conduct.
I can't be a
You
complaining
absolutely
party.
cannot. I can cuss all day in front of you. There's no kids around. There's nobody else. You cannot be a complaining party in the state of Georgia on disorderly conduct.
Okay.
Go
Nobody
check the
said
law.
anything about disorderly conduct.
Well, you said I changed the stop. Write me a ticket.
You did, because now you're mad and you're calling me a motherfucker for no reason whatsoever.
You stopped me unlawful.
By the way, this officer has no problem repeating those words, so I don't know how offended he actually was.
Doesn't seem like he was too offended.
Exactly. I'm sure that's not the first time somebody has called him that. He does seem like well, let me back up a little bit. You seem like you're coming at him very aggressively, and at the beginning, he seems very patient. But I think it turns a little bit here because he ends up writing you a ticket. Is that correct?
He did write me a ticket, yes.
And it was for aggressive driving?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Okay.
Awfully. I can flip you off all day long.
Okay.
There it is again.
Like I'm saying to you, like I'm trying to educate you if you give me an opportunity to do that.
Education, obviously, Sarge.
Okay. So, all right, then let me know which part I need to educate on so that I can educate myself, seriously.
Anybody can flip you off. This is 100% the First Amendment.
Okay.
As I will sit here and do it with my car running and driving past you as I did. I do it all the time. I do it to state troopers just to see if a motherfucker is going to be stupid enough to stop me for it.
Okay.
So there it is. Write me my fucking ticket and let's get this stop over with. I'm home.
Okay,
I
all
got
right.
fries here.
Give me 1 second. I'll be right back with you, okay?
Write my ticket.
Good Lord have mercy.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Unless, does anything happen in this part that we need to hear, or is he just...
No.
Okay,
Yeah, he just waits on backup, basically.
Like, he needs backup. Come on now. You didn't even, like, get out of your car or anything.
I mean, I could understand him thinking that I was so frustrated to the point where I might turn aggressive. But I thought having two people come for backup was a little bit excessive. But
you did seem very aggressive. So I can, here's what I want to say. I can understand if this is the only thing, and this is the one that went viral. So if this is the only thing that somebody saw of you, how they would think that you're kind of an asshole.
I can agree with that. And that I can be an asshole sometimes. It's true.
Yeah.
All right. So very hot. All right. So I wanted somebody here when I issued him the citation. So I pulled him over because he was driving by, looking at me, flipping me off when he drove by. So I followed him around to the traffic stop, talking about aggressive driving harassment, completely blew up on me. Like talking about all his amendment rights and I'm doing unlawful stops. He ain't got to give me IDs, all this craziness. And I was like, look, man, I didn't do anything to you. I just want to know what's going on. He won't hear anything, flipping out, flipping me off in my face, calling me a motherfucker and all kinds of shit like that, writing my ticket, bitch, all kinds of things. You know, so I just wanted somebody here when I go to give it to him because he's going to be fucking pissed. All right, sir. So you see I got a couple of people. It's just for our safety, all right? So look, I'm going to do as you said. I'm going to give you the ticket for aggressive driving. I went ahead and got a case number.
You're going to let him write me a ticket for flipping him off?
She's my sergeant.
Sergeant?
Yes.
You're going to let him write me a ticket for flipping him off?
Aggressive driving, yeah.
Aggressive driving.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I was trying. If you
it's not aggressive driving. We'll see it in court.
Would you give me a second so I can explain it to you?
I don't need a second. Let me sign the shit
and
let's go.
All right.
Let's
so look, man,
over
this is going to be my copy. I'll put an X right here for you if you'll just go ahead and sign right there for me. All right. Now, this is not an admission of guilt, like I said.
Oh shit.
So if you want to go to court, the court date's right here. The time, date, and address and everything is right there for you. And on the back right here is a website. If you want to view the ticket or whatever, the phone number for the police department's right there. Okay, if you have any questions. You'll see on there in the remarks column, I put the actual case number on there. There's a case number on top. The video from our body camera footage will be available. All you have to do is call the police department and talk to them. The lieutenant of patrol will be able to help you out, okay? All right.
I flipped you off.
All right.
I'll say it to you, body cam. I flipped them off.
All right. So here's your insurance card and all. All right, man. You have a good evening, all right? Well, I gave you your ID back. You got it. All right. Y'all have a good evening, sir. Have a good evening, man. Just don't get yourself in trouble, man. Just go on.
I can stand here all day long and do this.
All right.
Get the fuck out.
So look,
kick rocks.
You're changing
Emerson,
this.
kick rocks.
You're changing this.
You're
subject,
dismissed.
man.
You're dismissed. You're dismissed.
So that is that's what made you famous.
Ish.
So this micro celebrity, we'll say. We'll say. If you had to do it all over again, would you?
Knowing it would be the same outcome, yeah. The ticket was thrown out. It was dismissed. The chief of police called me 3 weeks later and apologized to me. Told me that they were going to be doing retraining on First Amendment in the department. The ticket I didn't have to go to court. The ticket was completely thrown out. So, I mean, what was I wrong in how I went about it? Possibly. It's all perspective, but in the end, I was right about what I was saying.
Yes. You are allowed to flip people off. Would you do it? Would you do it again?
I've given every Commerce police officer that I've seen for the last month the finger as I've drove past them. Okay,
and nobody else has pulled you over or anything?
No.
Do you think that by doing that, they are going to be scrutinizing you more? So if you have a tail light or, something small, do you think it's going to cause, or do you think it can cause you more problems by just being like that?
Well, without a doubt, I think that if they had the opportunity to get me for anything, that they would. But I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't break the law. So, I mean.
Well, I'm the same way. I'm an innocent angel. However, there's that study that was done that says that the average law-abiding citizen, because of the amount of laws that are on the books, break 3 laws a day.
Sure.
And you're no different than that. So I think that it might just be asking for trouble by acting like that. Also, do you group all police officers? Like, obviously, this guy was kind of a jerk, right? Emerson. But
I don't think that he was really a jerk during that interaction. I'll give him that. He actually behaved himself very well for what I thought, other than giving me the ticket. And his behavior was on point.
Okay. And you understand that, well, I know you do because you've said this to me, in private, before the show or whatever, but not all cops fall into the same basket. So
I'm not a defund the police guy.
Exactly.
I don't hate all cops.
Okay.
I'm a conservative constitutionalist.
Yeah.
I, have a couple of really good friends that work for the county that I live in. So I don't hate all cops at all. I mean, It was, 1, I was having a bad day. 2, I went fishing. I was going to see what happens. I mean, it wasn't meant for him in particular. It was meant for the cop that would pull me over for it. That's what it was meant for.
Okay. That's understandable. And the reason why I wanted to get that on record, that you are not a defund the police guy, you're not like an anarchist or something like that, is because I think people might have the wrong idea about you. Now, I do think what you did in that situation is wrong, and I wouldn't do that. I think that people that do things like that are kind of immature. You've shown maturity in other ways, but not in this situation, in my opinion. And one of the places that you did show maturity is during, you did do an audit. And I thought I had it pulled up. Man, I am like batting a 0 right now with the way I'm running this show. Let me get this pulled up, but you did do an audit, which is the first video on your channel, and I watched it from beginning to end. And at the very end of that, which I think maybe a lot of people have missed, is that you were actually very kind to the police officers in this situation, and you did commend the ones that did a good job. Do you think you're going to do more audits in the future?
If they present themselves to me, I'm not going to be going out looking for audits. I'm not going to be going to post offices or city halls or, cop watching. I don't cop watch. If an opportunity presents itself to me, then there it is. But outside of that, I mean, if I have to go conduct some business at the police department, I might film it. I might not.
Okay.
It's just one of those, depends on the day and time, place, and manner.
Okay. So I am going to pull up this other First Amendment audit fail for the prison. Okay, this is the one. So this is a 34-minute video, and Shane's channel, by the way, is linked below. So you can check all of these videos out in full, and I highly suggest you do. His shorts, there's a couple of shorts on your channel that are hilarious, by the way. There's one in the shoe store that I actually laughed out loud while I was at work and then had to pretend I was coughing so people didn't think I was watching YouTube videos at work, because it was actually funny. So this one is called First Amendment Auto Fail for the Prison, Pass for the SD Officers Educated. So I think that at the very end of this video, like I said, I think a lot of people who have commented on you and your channel maybe didn't see this part, but this part here shows me the exact opposite of what we just watched, a little bit of maturity and understanding that people, you can't put everybody in the same basket. There's bad people in every profession, those sort of things. I think, yep, there we go. So just a little background. You did a whole audit. You walked around this prison, and there were police officers who did stop you. And
they were corrections officers that came out and told me I couldn't be there. And they called the sheriff's department.
You asked for the boss then, is that correct?
I just told them that if they needed to call somebody, then to call the sheriff's department. I mean,
and this is the gentleman that came out.
Yes. At this time, he's inside telling them that there's no law that says I can't be out there in a publicly accessible area. That's all they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can see the signs there that says, no trespassing beyond that point, and you did not go beyond that point.
And I want to say one more thing to you, and maybe this should be relayed to your lieutenant, because I heard part of the conversation. There are no signs say authorized personnel only, no trespassing. The end of this fence down here where that dog is, I could have walked all the way down to the back side of that building because there's not one sign that says authorized personnel only beyond this point, no trespassing beyond this point. I didn't do that because I didn't want to cause. I understand. I didn't do that because I didn't want to cause unnecessary alarm. If somebody's walking down the back side of the prison, then it looks a lot worse than somebody coming out here.
Just to brief it on the conversation I had.
Yes, sir.
I explained that the guard line actually stops at the end of County Farm Road. Mm-hmm. There's actually a guard line sign over there.
Yes,
there's
sir.
one down there.
I know where they are.
I'm not familiar with any specific specifications that regarding laws inside the guard line. Mm-hmm. All I know is
they could put up a sign out here that says no photography, and it wouldn't matter because it doesn't trump the First Amendment.
You are correct.
But
as
as
far
far
as
as
following,
following,
a sign that said authorized personnel only,
So you're using all the frauditor lines here. It doesn't trump the First Amendment, like all of those. Did you watch a lot of auditing channels before you did this?
Long Island Audit was probably the one I've watched the most, mostly on TikTok. They replay his videos and stuff. I see them on there, but I don't actively just watch auditors, just in there. I don't have any other channels that I really subscribe to other than his.
Okay, well, you should definitely subscribe to my channel, by the way.
You're not an auditor.
I'm not.
You're one of my critics.
Well, I'm not. I mean,
in a way,
I try to be fair, and we're going to get into to why all of this happened in just a minute.
Sure.
then I can't go past that.
Exactly.
But they can never put that up here because there's visitors.
As far as I'm concerned, this is a public parking lot. You can, as long as you're not interfering with any operations going on.
I told them when they first came out, I have no ill intent. I'm not dropping drugs off. I'm not doing anything like that.
Right,
and
well,
I appreciate you honoring your oath, knowing your oath, doing your job.
Absolutely.
I heard you said your LT was coming out.
Journalism for or audit or whatever goes well for
It's
you.
not necessarily First Amendment audits.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for you. Commerce has passed with flying colors 3 times. I'm looking for people like you.
Okay.
These are the ones that I want to post. The negative ones, a lot of this will get cut out because there was some negativity from those guys. Some of it will get left in to show why you had to come. But I'm looking for guys like you.
Okay.
Those are the ones I want posted.
Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, sir.
Thank you. Have a good one.
And that's what I wanted to highlight. You said in this video that you were looking for people like him to highlight the good ones. And I think maybe a lot of the critics out there missed that part. Is that still what you're trying to do?
If I get put into an opportunity where I'm having an interaction with police and I decide to film it, I would hope that the outcome would be them doing their job, not to my standard, but to the standard of what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And if that happens, good. I'm glad that he upheld his oath at that time.
He did.
A lot of people say that, once you pass the guard line, that not all your stuff goes out the window once you pass the guard line. But what they don't realize is there's a public recreation department inside that guard line with ball fields, baseball fields, football field. There's a lot of public property inside of that guard line that you're allowed to be at until you go somewhere that says unauthorized personnel only.
Yep. Do you understand? Was this a prison or a jail?
This was a prison. It's a county prison. It's run by the county, but it's still a state prison.
Do you understand why they would have extra security? Like you said in the video, you're not bringing drugs or something like that.
No.
People,
I don't understand why they don't have more signs up outside of that prison. There's some places they should have signs outside of the prison.
People who are in prison are convicts. They've been convicted of the actual crime, and there could be murders, there could be drug dealers, there could be child predators in prison who actually did the crime and are convicted of it, and they're just trying to keep the community safe by stopping, and obviously they don't need to be jerks, just like you don't need to be a jerk. But everybody has bad days every now and again. Now, that video that we played first that you flipped off the is he a Lieutenant Emerson or Officer Emerson?
No, he was a corporal. I called him a sergeant, but he was a corporal.
Okay, corporal. You flipped off Corporal Emerson. That happened after this. So
yes,
you just chalk it up to having a bad day and fishing, I think you said?
I was fishing.
Yeah.
Sure, I was having a bad day that day, but that didn't really play into my reaction to him at all.
Yeah.
I was upset that he pulled me over for it. He should have just kept on riding or sat there where he was sitting at.
Yeah.
And never thought twice about it. That's what a good cop would have done. A bad cop comes and pulls you over. A good cop waves at you or just lets it pass.
Yeah. So there's a reason why you have a problem with with authority, and it's because you spent 2.5 years in jail for a crime that you did not commit, and you've agreed to talk about that, which is the big reason why I wanted to have you on my channel. I'm a true crime channel, and I'm very interested in the justice system and when it works and when it doesn't work. So I'd love to get into your story a little bit, and I'm kind of going to give you the floor because it's your story, and you told it to me, and it's a horrible story.
All the way around.
But the fact that they can keep somebody locked up for that long with no trial is concerning, because the Sixth Amendment says you have a right to a speedy trial. You have a right to an attorney, all of those things. So, and that did not happen in your case.
It didn't. And part of the reason, it wasn't just the state. The state didn't just drag me along and drag it out as long as they could. They did do that to an extent. But the other part of the reason that it took so long was the attorney situation. I had a paid attorney at first. I felt about 8 months in that he wasn't doing his job. He was doing a terrible job. And I didn't really feel like he was up to the seriousness of the case, because I was facing a life plus 20-year sentence if I got found guilty at trial. So I fired him 8 months in and then went with a public defender. Life
plus 20 years, that means there's no possibility of parole or anything, correct?
In Georgia, on a life sentence, you get a possibility of parole after 35 years, I think.
Okay.
You do 35 years, and then you have the 20 years on top of that you would have to do.
So 55 years minimum.
55 years, yeah.
So basically 55 years to life is what you were up against.
If I would have been found guilty, I would have never gotten out of prison.
Yeah. And let's rewind back. You told me the year and I didn't make notes, and I feel horrible. So I'm just going to ask you about it and kind of we'll walk down the path of this story. You were living in south of here in a different part of Georgia, and you had told me you were a sous chef and you moved down there to take a job as a sous chef, which, by the way, I love cooking and cooking shows and stuff like that. So it really piqued my interest when you said you were a sous chef. I mean, like Hell's Kitchen is my favorite show. So I'm really into that. But you had a girlfriend at the time, and she had, was it family that moved in with you guys or friends that moved in with you?
Yeah, her dad had gotten kicked out of the place that he was living, and we were already moving down there. So we decided to get a place together. And I think he moved in like 3 or 4 days before we did. Then we moved in, and then her uncle got a divorce, and we had a really big house. We had 2 extra bedrooms after it was just me, her, and her dad. And then her uncle got a divorce and needed somewhere to stay. So he moved in, took her bedroom up.
And this was a house or an apartment?
It was a house.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a 4-bedroom house. I guess we lived there for 6 months. And then her uncle met a girl.
Okay.
And they started dating. And really quickly, she needed a place to live too. I didn't care. We sat down as a family essentially to talk about her moving in because she had a child too. And we decided it wouldn't be that big of a deal, to let them move in. We split the rent up, accordingly. And I was never there. I was working 6 to 7 days a week at the country club. So his uncle's girlfriend at the time and her daughter moved in. Her daughter was 12 years old. They lived there for maybe 3 months. And then the daughter went back to the grandmother's house and told her that the mom was taking pills and not taking care of her. And I mean, which was all true. The mom was taking pills. They stayed up in their bedroom. She wasn't buying food for her. We're the ones that fed her. DFACS came and did a whole interview with everybody in the house. We all told them the truth that, except for the mom, she hid from them. The little girl was taken out of the house and put into the grandmother's house.
And how old was this girl?
She was 12 years old at the time.
Oh, okay.
she was put into the grandmother's house, and we kicked my girlfriend at the time's uncle and his girlfriend. We kicked them out because they had, for months, hadn't been paying bills. You know, they hadn't been really doing anything other than laying back in the room.
Yeah.
Fast forward a year, we moved back up here to where I'm from in Northeast Georgia, 2 hours north, and we're living up here for about 5 months. And a Clayton County, where I was living, detective reached out to me. Reached out to my mom at first, and because she had her number somehow. I'm not sure how she got my mom's number, but reached out to her and actually came up to my mom's house and left a card, talked to my mom, you know, wanted to talk to me, left a card. I got the card the next day, and we started kind of playing phone tag back and forth for about a week.
Yeah.
And then I got her on the phone finally, and she says, you know, I need you to come down to do an interview.
Did they have you drive all the way back down to Clayton County to do the interview, or did they?
They wanted me to.
Oh, okay.
They wanted me to drive all the way. She did come up the first time. I believe had I been at my mother's house that day, we probably would have done the interview that day.
Yeah.
But I wasn't. I didn't live with my mom or anything. So she wanted me to drive down to do the interview down in Clayton County, which is about 2 hours south of where I live.
Yeah.
And we'd set up times. We had talked. Here's what she told me. At first, she would just tell me, "You're a suspect in a crime." And I asked her multiple times.
They didn't even tell you like how serious, like it could have been shoplifting for all you know.
That she wouldn't tell me anything other than that for about 2 weeks.
Wow.
Then finally she told me
it could have been shoplifting, yet you're facing 55 years in prison and they don't even let you know. I mean, I guess that makes sense, because if you tell the person, like the suspect, in your case, you're the suspect, like, hey, you're facing 55 years to life. What are the chances you're going to, like, obviously, you know, you didn't do it, but if you had done it, you might have just like moved to freaking Belize or something, you know?
Seeing it from their perspective, I understand why they wouldn't tell me what the charge was. Yeah. You know, they wanted to see the look on my face when they told me and things like that. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of things that I don't know about how detectives work, and I'm sure that they had a reason for not telling me what the charge was. But finally, she told me after about 2 weeks of us kind of talking 3 or 4 times on the phone, she said it's a rape charge. You're accused of raping somebody. Yeah. And immediately my jaw dropped to the floor, and I asked her who, you know, that she wouldn't tell me that. And then I told her we set up a time for me to go down. At this time, I was working for a plumbing company, and the day came for me to go down and do the interview. And I don't know if anybody knows anything about plumbing, but we did a lot of work for Applebee's. And when their water heater went out at Applebee's, I forget where it was, but it was far. We had one set up to do a job at Applebee's down there in Clayton County, so that we could drive down there, do that. I could go to the interview, then we could come back home. Well, the night before, a water heater went out at a different Applebee's, and we had to go take care of that. So I called to reschedule, and she said, well, we'll call you and, you know, set up another time or whatever. I didn't get another call for them for probably a week. And then she called me back, and I told her, we kind of got into it, and this is kind of where it went south for me as far as dealing with the detective. We got into it, and my anger got the best of me. She told me, I offered her, you know, if you want to do it on a Saturday or a Sunday, I'll drive down there. We can do it on Saturday or Sunday. She said, I don't work Saturdays or Sundays. I said, well, this must not be a very,
big case.
This must not be that serious if you're not willing to come in and talk to me on a Saturday. And we kind of went at it a little bit, and she hung up on me. And the next thing I know, 2 weeks later, I was ripped out of the plumbing truck and arrested going from one job to the other.
So they pulled you over.
They did. Yeah. They actually contacted the plumbing company I worked for, who knew everything that was going on. And they also knew that there was no way that I would have done that. But they went to them first. They sent the county out there that was in to find out where we were. And then they told them, my boss told me, you know, the cops are asking us at the office where we're at, and I think they're coming for you. And so I just basically sat in the truck, and we just kept going about our day until they ripped me out of the truck. They pulled us over, stopped us, ripped me out, and took me to jail.
You were up here somewhere when they pulled you over, and they took you down back to Clayton County?
I was in Gordon County, which I don't know much about Gordon County.
Yeah. It's so far away that I don't even know where it is.
Yeah. In their official statement release, the county said that I was on the run, or they caught me in the North Georgia mountains. It sounded like I was on the run, like if you read their statement, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
We were in the plumbing truck, like it was me and my boss.
So, what they're accusing you of is they say that when this 12-year-old was living in your home and you were gracious enough to open your home to this family, to this girl whose mother apparently was on drugs, and the dad wasn't in the picture. And what happened, I read the documents that you sent me. So I just want everybody out there who's watching in the chat to know that I scrutinized your story before I had you on to talk about it, because, that's what I want the truth to come out, and whether the truth goes for, whatever narrative that all of you in the chat have in your mind about this man or not. I scrutinize the story, and what I'm about to tell you is the truth. This girl, 2 years after she lived with you, was in...
It was a little over a year, a year and a couple of months,
many months after she lived with you, was admitted to a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah.
And at that psychiatric hospital, she told counselors there that she was raped, sexually assaulted, raped. She was regular assaulted, hit in the back of the head. They said that that somebody, she didn't say it was you at first. She said somebody had hit her in the back of the head, knocked her out. And when she regained consciousness, she was being raped.
Yes.
And she didn't say who it was at first. Now, in my opinion, I think that something happened to this girl for her to tell this story. I also believe that a lot of times in situations like that, the counselors are fishing for information, and children, especially children who have psychological issues, will say whatever they think they need to say to get out of to make the conversation end, to get out of that situation, to explain their bad behavior. I assume something happened for her to be admitted to the mental facility, to the hospital, and she was coming up. The counselors, and this has happened before. There's a whole case out of California where these children, it was a day school or daycare, where these counselors convinced like 30 different children that there was like a Satan worshiping sex ring. And it turns out none of that was true. And it's because these counselors are fishing for information and basically feeding these kids information. And the kids are going to tell the adults whatever they want to hear. So she told them that somebody hit her in the back of the head. She woke up being raped. And once it came down to it, where she had to name a name, she said your name.
Yes. And when they put her in the hospital, her grandmother went to get clothes for the hospital stay. And the way it all started was she had a diary that was like laid open to the certain page, and the grandmother found it. And then on the page it said, I've done this, I've done drugs, I've had sex, I've gotten drunk. And I was raped, but this is none of your business. And then that led them to start asking her, what happened? You were raped? Who raped you? I believe it took 3 or 4 days before they got a name out of her. It took at least a couple of days before she named me. But she did name me. And she said her, exact story was that me and my girlfriend had been outside smoking a cigarette. We both came inside as she was going to her bedroom, and that I followed her to her bedroom and hit her in the back of the head as she entered her room, knocked her out, and raped her with 5 people in the house. And 3 of those people being within 15 feet of where it's supposed to have taken place, with my girlfriend at the time being in the other room. I mean, it was a crazy story to begin with, and it spiraled out of control, essentially.
It seems sort of, if there's 4 people in the house, I assume it's not a mansion. You're not living in a huge house. You're a sous chef, for goodness sake.
I mean, it was a 4-bedroom house, but it wasn't very big.
Walls are not paper thin. Like, I can hear, in the next room, if people are just even talking, you can hear them. So to have a situation like that, where not only that they would hear that it happened, that an offender I don't know why I pointed to myself. An offender, me. No, if I was going to assault somebody, why would I think it would be safe to assault a 12-year-old with 4 other people in the house? It just doesn't make any sense.
And it was her statement that everybody was home. She said these two were in that bedroom, this person was in this bedroom, and she was over there. Like it wasn't, you know, just that day, oh, everybody was home. It was her words that everybody was home. And with that, they did a sexual assault exam on her. They did a forensic exam where they interviewed her in front of a camera. I used to have a copy of that. That's part of what played in the jury's mind to set me free, was that forensic interview, among other things. But they went through the whole rigmarole and then arrested me on it, you know, maybe a month after the initial outcry.
Well, so even though she wasn't, the medical exam didn't take place till over a year after.
There was never going to be any physical evidence, but.
Well, the physical evidence that was lacking in this case is that she had not had sex before.
No, her hymen was intact.
Doctors can tell. Now, having a not intact hymen doesn't always necessarily mean that you have had sex, but having an intact one means that you have not. So this is weird to talk about with a boy, and there's boys, but basically what it is, we'll do a little sex ed here. So there's skin that covers the vaginal, you know, the opening inside to the vaginal area or whatever. And not everyone has a full, most people actually, it's not totally full like a seal. It's not like a Tupperware lid. There's holes in it and stuff. And sometimes it's so much so where it's just a little bit of skin along the outside. But hers was enough intact that they could tell that nothing had been there. Put it that way.
And we didn't know that for 2 years and 2 months. We had no clue that was the case. It was sitting in my discovery packet, but with the way the doctors, you know, I couldn't read their terminology essentially to know that. And apparently neither did my lawyers, because we didn't know until that sexual assault nurse was on the stand, giving her testimony that the hymen was intact. Like that came out then. And both me and my lawyer was kind of taken aback when she answered that question, and he proceeded with, you know, more questions. But that is really the main thing that played in the jury's mind to find me not guilty, was that her hymen was intact.
So we never, and by we, I mean you and your people, never found out exactly what had happened to this girl. Do you think that something did happen to her?
There's either one of two things that, in my opinion, and I had plenty of time to think about this, and I forgave her early on, probably a few months into being incarcerated. Because I knew, okay, she was 12 when it was supposed to have taken place. She was 13 when she made the outcry. I knew no matter what, something was wrong with her. Either something had happened to her, or I also knew that both of her parents were, you know, really not in the picture. And one of the reasons I think she possibly said that this happened, or was to get her mom back in her life. After we had kicked her mom out, her mom and my girlfriend's uncle had gone to Florida, and they were on a meth binge essentially for months. They were down there living out of the back of the truck, doing drugs every day. Once she made this outcry, her mother left my girlfriend's uncle in Florida, took his truck, and drove straight back home. So she got her back in her life essentially with that outcry. So either I believed it was for attention, or something had really happened. 5 years removed from the trial, I would say that most likely she was actually abused at some point. And perhaps it was somebody close to her that she didn't want to name. That's why, you know, she named me, or, you know, I'm not sure. To me, it has to be one of those two things, either attention or she was abused by somebody and it just came out the way it came out.
So Salacious in the chat is asking, but why be mad at the cops? They did not accuse you.
There were 2 horrible cops. Well, one that I can say was pretty horrible, and I cussed her out on the phone, but I don't believe, if you had a chance, Salacious, to go through my discovery pack and to see the lack of evidence that was so astounding. You know, there's no physical evidence. There's nobody else that's ever made an accusation like this against me. There's nobody in the house, even her own mother, could be interviewed to say, is there a chance that this could happen? and they knew her hymen was intact. That was something that the doctors, I mean, that the detectives knew, to the point to where the detectives on the case never took the stand in my trial. So maybe I harbor resentment towards them for locking me up for over 2 years. I know that in some people's mind, they did their job. And if it were my child, I would want, hey, lock him up until we find out. It's a rock and a hard place for me, having been through it, to say, you know, whether it's right to lock somebody up just based off of words, but I agree with it. If something does really happen to somebody and they don't outcry for a year or 2 years, you still need a way to be able to prosecute that if it's true. So, but at the same time, I feel like the lead detective in my case, could have done a lot more.
Yeah.
Looking into the case before I was arrested to see if it was true.
Absolutely. Another question is, how did it get all the way to a jury when there's no evidence? Which is one of the reasons why you're upset with the system in general. Because in Georgia
and most states, you don't need any physical evidence to convict somebody of a rape. For a rape case in Georgia, all you need is a statement from the victim, and the victim to testify to that same statement when they go to trial.
Yeah,
that is sufficient evidence to convict you and send you to prison for life on a rape charge in Georgia. And it's like that in most states. I don't necessarily disagree with that at this point. Like I said, it's a rock and a hard place. You still need a way to prosecute those cases that are true. When somebody has been abused and doesn't say anything for a long time, the only way to prosecute those cases is to take their word for it, essentially.
Here's my issue with prosecuting rape cases when there's no evidence, no witnesses other than the person, is that women lie. And there's been cases that have been proven that the woman is lying. So to end a man's life, or not end, that came out wrong. To end his, not end his life as in like, you know, death
take away his freedom.
Yeah, those are the words I'm looking for. Over just an accusation seems harsh to me. If you guys are interested in my take on this, if you go back, one of the first videos I did was about Brock Turner, who I think he got tried in the court of the media. And in real life, when you read the documents of his case, and I go over all the documents in this, it's like a 2-hour live stream. I don't think he did anything wrong except for, get a little bit too drunk and, go and watch that. But my point being is that your freedom was taken away for 2.5 years and could have been taken away for the rest of your life over an accusation. And I don't think that's the way to, obviously we want rapists off the streets. We want rape not to happen. But I think taking away somebody's freedom over an accusation is not, there's got to be a better way.
It's a slippery slope. I'm sure there's a better way to make sure that, something may have happened, or the likelihood of it is greater before you arrest somebody. But it's a slippery slope. And with somebody having been in that situation, I can sit here and tell you that I don't know that there's another way to make sure that those cases are prosecuted when it's not talked about for years.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Exactly. So let's get to the part where you go to jail. And why did it take 2 years? I know we're going to talk about another case here in a minute, that there was a lot of stuff going on. But in your specific case, you said you hired an attorney to start with, and then take me through the 2 years that you sat in, or 2.5 years that you sat in jail.
So we hired an attorney. In all, it was going to cost around $40,000 for him to take the case to trial.
Yeah.
Well,
that's another thing, is that if somebody just over an accusation, you're having to shell out $40,000 to get proper legal counsel is kind of crazy too. Sorry for cutting you off. Go ahead.
And I was just a plumber. We really didn't have that money. He was allowing us to make payments through my mom and my girlfriend. Were both making payments to him. And he was on the case for about 8 months. And then I realized that this was really out of his wheelhouse. It was kind of above his pay grade. I don't think he'd really handled anything as serious as my case. Most of what he handled, I believe, were DUIs and things like that. And we just kind of, he's the only one I really felt like believed me. but he was also the one that I felt like could help me the least because he just wasn't prepared. I'd seen him come to court and get admonished by the judge because he didn't file paperwork that he was supposed to file to be on notice for when court dates were coming up. So little things like that just made me decide that I'd be better off financially and probably defense-wise with a public defender. And they gave me a public defender who was 800 years old, had been at the public defender's office for 700 of those years, and did not care in the least. I take that back. This one is probably the one that didn't believe me the most. He wanted me to take a plea deal for 25 years, which is the only plea deal that I heard up until right before we went to trial. They offered me a pretty sweet plea deal. Yeah. But I refused to take the plea deal. I told him I wasn't taking plea deals. I told every lawyer that I had in the beginning that I wouldn't take a plea deal.
Because you were innocent.
There was no chance that I was taking any type of plea deal. Fast forward about 6 months after I got that first public defender, he decides to retire, which I was perfectly fine with. And they gave me another public defender who turned out to be, when I met him, I knew that he was my guy because he was wiping his neck and then he would smell his fingers. And for whatever reason,
why is that
I just
guy?
knew it was just that weird tick, like, people that are really smart and that, are good at whatever they do. Some of them turn out to be super weird. And this guy, that wasn't the only thing. There were multiple things that made him weird. I guess people would say the same thing about me, some of the things that I do. But I for whatever reason, I felt comfortable with him. And he turned out to be he even sent me an email after my case was over and told me, like, had it not been for the work that I did, the stuff that I didn't send you were 8 pages of, hey, this is why this on this page, this is wrong on this page because of this. I went through the entire discovery pack and broke down everything from my perspective to give to him. And he was able to work the case about 6 months, and then we went to trial. So part of it was the state wasn't ready. They wanted to try to get me to take a plea deal. I believe they thought that if I sat there for long enough that I would take a plea deal. But the other part was my defense kind of got shaken up a few times. So that also led to it being drawn out. Yeah,
exactly. Major Wrench McNome says at least he wasn't scratching his butt and smelling it.
That's true.
I mean,
he probably does if he does his neck. But
yeah, totally could have been worse. So the reason why when you had mentioned it, and this is just in a chat that I saw that you were in jail for 2.5 years without, going to trial. By the way, the way this concluded is they did the jury trial. The jury deliberated for 30 minutes. And came back and said, you are innocent. You are an innocent man. And, well, not guilty. I guess not guilty and innocent is two different things. Yeah. But it didn't take them long. So it wasn't like they were debating and it just happened to fall on your side. It was like immediate. They took one vote and said, nope, we're definitely not, There
were 2 votes. I talked to 3 of the jurors afterwards. And the first vote they took, it was 10 not guilty and 2 undecided. Yeah. The 2 that were undecided were handpicked by me. Both of them one of them had been abused as a child, and the other one had a child that had been abused. Yeah. And I wanted them on my jury. My attorney wanted to use 2 of our strikes against them, but I told him not to save those for somebody else because I wanted the lack of sincerity to possibly get across to them. Because at that point, I had seen the video of her forensic exam and known that it wasn't very convincing. That I wanted them to be able to compare their stories and what they went through to what she's saying to see that it wasn't lining up.
Well, the thing that gets me is that it took well, like Salacious just said in the chat, why did it take more than the doctor's examination to dismiss this case? Why did it get all the way to a jury? And the other thing, when you were saying about having those 2 people on the jury, is that when it does happen to you, like I am a victim of rape. And when I see cases, that's why I get so infuriated when women lie about rape, because it takes away from when it actually does happen. So when women are out here, and I'm not saying this about the victim in your case because she's a child, obviously, but when women use crying rape as a tool to get back at somebody, it takes away from actual victims so much so that they're not believed anymore. And
Sure.
I'm not saying we need to believe all women, but these cases need to be taken seriously. And when you muddy the waters like that, they're just not taken seriously anymore.
As far as why it took more than that exam to dismiss this case, I don't believe that the lead detective in the case ever had any plans on dismissing it. Had I went down there and actually had an interview with them, I believe I probably would have been arrested that day, because they arrested me on the same amount of evidence 2 months later that they had the day they wanted me to come down and do the interview. I don't believe she wanted to hear anything I had to say unless it was an admission.
Yeah.
I fully believe the only reason she wanted to interview with me was to get me to confess to something, or to see if I would confess to it. I do believe that she thought that I did it, and maybe the exam got past them at some point. I'm not sure, but I do know that the detective knew at some point before I was arrested that her hymen was intact. Like the detective knew that. She knew everything about that exam.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know why it got drug out the way it did and ended up the way it did, but it did. Did
you want to say anything more about your case? If not, I'm going to get into this Maurice Jimerson case.
I think we've pretty much covered the main aspects of it.
Keep in mind, guys, we're going to take calls at the end. So probably in about a half an hour. It depends on how much we talk a lot. So it depends on how much we talk. But we're going to take calls. So if you have any questions, feel free to call in. I'll put that link up there in about a half an hour. Before we get into Maurice Jimerson, which is such an interesting case, and that's why I wanted to have you on, because I knew about this Maurice Jimerson case when you had said that. And it reminded me of that. Obviously, Maurice Jimerson was in jail way longer than you, and still in jail, by the way. But there's parallels there. Before we do that, there's more people here now. So I just wanted to say, if you want to support this channel, if you like what I do here, YouTube hates me for whatever reason. So you'd have to go to buymeacoffee.com/KDZ. If you wanted to donate, I really would appreciate it. If you think that I've earned your hit the like button. If I've done a good job here today and you like what you see, hit the like button. If you want to see more of what I'm doing here, hit the subscribe button. I sure would appreciate that. There's a QR code at the top of the screen right now. You can just go ahead and scan that and buy me a coffee. When you do buy me a coffee, by the way, Zena gets a milk bone. Her camera's not working, but I will bring her over and give her a milk bone on air. So, and number 2, thank you very much for throwing that up on the screen. Buymeacoffee.com/KDZ. That's where you can go to donate. Hopefully, I'm demonetized until the 26th of September. Once I'm monetized again, you guys know out there in the audience that I'm planning on doing that charity stream. It was planned actually for this weekend, for my birthday weekend, but people just don't go to another website to donate. So I want to wait to raise money for charity till I'm monetized again. And that charity is called RAINN, RAINN. And what they do is they test untested rape kits. A lot of times in rape cases, they don't test the rape kit unless they have a suspect in mind. So what this does is they test these rape kits that are just stacked up in the police, evidence lockers and refrigerators somewhere to match them up with the database. We want to get as many rapists off the street as possible. So sometime in October, I will do that charity stream. I really appreciate any donations you make until then through the Buy Me a Coffee, which is on your screen, and there's a QR code. Oh, Salacious just reminded me. Also, Finding the Faith with Freda is doing a fundraiser right now for the Freedom Alliance, and Salacious just put a link in the chat to that. That's where I got this shirt at. Be there, be kind. It's helped support veterans, and Freda's a great person, so check out her information's down below as well. So, Maurice Jimerson, you hadn't heard about this when I told you.
No, and it's insane to me for him to have sat as long as he did.
Yeah, let me pull this up on the screen. Maurice Jimerson is a gentleman who I believe, and keep in mind, he's innocent until found guilty, but I did research his records as well. I went through all of his documents, court documents and stuff like that. I think he's probably guilty, but he's innocent right now because he hasn't been convicted of anything. He's been in jail for the last 10 years, guys, since 2013. Maurice Jimerson has been in jail with no trial. This is out of, it says Atlanta here, but that's just who's reporting. I forget what county it is, but a Georgia man's freedom is in the hands of a jury currently for the 2013 murder charge against him. Recently, he had ended up finally getting a trial after 10 years, but it was a mistrial, so he's still in jail. They're trying him again. I'm going to play this little bit. Oh, I thought I had a video pulled up. Here it is. Sorry, I pulled up the wrong tab, guys, because I'm me and I'm not good with the tech. So let me pull up the correct tab. Okay, here it is. So he did finally go to trial, but there was a mistrial, and I'm going to play this real quick. We're going to mute us.
There were two people charged in the same murder. A jury found one of them not guilty, but not Jimerson. A judge ruled his case a mistrial because the jury could not come up with a unanimous verdict after 3 days of deliberations. Maurice's family says this has been an emotional roller coaster, and they're not done fighting yet. Sonia Holmes hits the road for a meeting she's been desperately waiting for.
I'm nervous. I'm anxious. I'm overwhelmed.
It's the first time she'll see her son, Maurice Jimerson, in person in more than 2 years.
That's a long time, and I know once I get there, I won't be able to take my eyes off of it.
The destination, a courtroom inside the Dougherty County Jail. Albany police arrested Maurice in 2013 for murder. For more than 10 years, he's waited behind bars for his court date, never convicted of the crime. One of the longest pretrial detentions in American history.
His constitutional rights have been violated, and no one has paid attention. They put him in there and they forgot about him.
In response to profiling her son's story on Atlanta News First in April, an attorney agreed to represent him for free, scheduling this hearing to ask a judge to dismiss the case, citing delays violate Maurice's Sixth Amendment right to a speedy trial. A jury acquitted 2 of his co-defendants years ago.
So I'm old-fashioned, and I think that people should be convicted of a crime before they're punished. This is an unprecedented case. This is about a core constitutional right, the right to a speedy trial and the right to due process. And when you see people denied that right, the public needs to know about it.
Maurice took the stand too, explaining how detention impacted his mental health.
So how long did you spend without seeing the sun?
2 years, 3 years.
District Attorney Gregory Edwards says the delays were not his fault, blaming COVID-19 and a flood in the courthouse among the reasons.
The bulk of the delay was something beyond the control of anybody.
We've been making every effort to bring him to trial, so simple as that.
After a full day of arguments, the judge decided not to let Maurice free.
I wanted to touch him, and I still can't touch him. And I'm overwhelmed. You know I get overwhelmed.
But that's not the end of Maurice's story. 10 days later, his long-awaited trial begins.
A trial, ladies and gentlemen, is a search for the truth, whatever that may be.
The DA telling the jury there's a witness who told investigators he saw Jimerson at the fatal shooting.
That information is enough for you beyond a reasonable doubt to find these defendants guilty.
His defense attorney reminding the jury that witness later recanted his story, admitting he lied.
No cell phone location, no DNA, no fingerprints. Only one eyewitness who recanted his testimony.
After 3 days of deliberations, the jury could not reach a verdict. the judge declaring the case a mistrial, likely causing Jimerson to stand trial again. An outcome his mother did not want, but she's not giving up hope.
It's not over. It's been 10 years. It should be over. But you know what? We've waited 10 years. I'm going to get to touch him. He's coming home. That's my hope. That's my prayer.
The district attorney tells me he plans to take this case back to trial. He says he will get a guilty verdict the next time because he'll have more time to bring in witnesses he says links Jimerson to the murder. Jimerson's attorney tells me he plans to appeal this case to the Georgia Supreme Court, saying the 10-year delay to get to trial is in violation of his Sixth Amendment right to a speedy trial. In Dougherty County, Andy Parati, Atlanta News First.
So what do you guys think of that case? 10 years. First of all, let me get your reaction, Shane.
I don't know how they can blame it on COVID or a leaky courthouse, because COVID was 7 years after he was arrested. So he had to sit there for 7 years before they could even blame it on that.
Yeah.
I haven't looked into the case like you have, so I'm a very firm believer in innocent until proven guilty. This guy deserves to at least have his day in court again. And a mistrial is never a good sign for either side, to be honest with you.
Once there was a mistrial, I think that even if they did want to try him again, they needed to let him be, like, put an ankle monitor on him and let him go home at least. Yeah. Jail is much different, and you can talk about this too. Jail is different than prison, where you don't get to have visitation. I think most jails, and different counties are different, obviously. But I know in the county that I'm at, I almost doxed myself just now. The county that I'm at, the jail, it's a video. It's not even, there's not even glass or whatever. It's basically a video call. Yeah. Which I don't understand why you can't do that from your house. You have to go up to the jail and sit in a room that is designated for them. And, you know, they if they want to do Zoom calls or whatever, they should just allow Zoom calls from your house, or, you know, whatever it is. So you're not getting an hour outside. Like in a prison, you would get an hour outside. You're not getting visitation with your family. In prison, most prisons anyway, I think it depends on the security level or whatever. You get actual, like, you can hug your mom or your girl. Yeah, exactly. And in jail, not only is it no contact, it's not even, it'd be like you and I visiting right now. That's the extent of the visitation in a jail. So 10 years is let's put it this way. It's very difficult for me to not plug my channel, even when I'm on my channel. But if you go back and watch my interview with Justin Coleman, if you guys remember, Justin Coleman murdered a man when he was 17 years old and spent 14 years in prison. So he's almost to the point to where he's going to serve his entire sentence that he would get for the crime that he committed in jail instead of prison. A little background to the story. It was a gang-related shooting, and there were 4 people in the car. He was the one that was actually doing the shooting. Allegedly, he's innocent, obviously, until proven guilty. There was 4 suspects. They obviously, this news source and any of the news sources have an agenda, and they're telling the agenda of this guy's in jail. Isn't this so sad? We got to get him out. But in reality, what happened, it was a gang drive-by. There was 4 people, and there was 2 people that were just passengers. Those are the people whose cases were dismissed almost immediately, because they're like, we didn't know where we were going, what we were doing. Like, we were just there. The driver was in jail for about 7 years and then was acquitted. And he's the actual guy who had the gun and did the shooting. That's Maurice. So in reading the documents that I found and the news coverage from back then, from 2013 when it happened, I believe that he's probably guilty. He probably did that. But I also believe that when he is convicted, it should be time served, and he should walk out of court that day. Does that make sense?
If he's convicted, I mean, most likely they would give him the time that he's served towards his sentence.
Yeah.
But he'd probably be looking at a lot more time than that, depending on how the case goes, I guess.
Well, it was not necessarily, as far as I could tell, there was no evidence, and it may have been, there's just no evidence of premeditation. It was a spur of the moment type thing. They saw people that were on the opposite side of whatever. I'm not sure how gangs work, but they were on the wrong team, you know? And it was a spur of the moment, not a premeditated, like, oh, we're going to go, this is where they hang out, we're going to go get them or whatever. It was a spur of the moment type thing. And, I think that it should count for more time because he's serving harder time being in jail instead of prison.
I will say that I've never been to prison, but a lot of the guys that I was in jail with would tell you that they would rather do their pretrial time in a prison than they would in a jail, because in prison, the morning comes, you're out of your cell, you're doing your job, or you're hanging out in the day room, you're moving around.
Yeah.
And in most jails, not all jails, but most jails, you're on a lockdown, you know, at least 18 hours a day. Some of them, like the one I was in, was 22 hours a day. You got an hour out in the morning, an hour out at night. The rest of the day you're in your cell. So that's really hard time.
Absolutely. And there's not programs for education, for religion. There's not, I mean, obviously they have chapel services or whatever, I think, in jail. And correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm saying anything wrong about this.
Yeah, they do.
But in prison, there's more resources. There's, you know, there's programs, there's, you know, there's skill learning, you know, schooling, things like that, where you can better your life. Where in prison, it's just sort of, you're in a time warp. You're just stuck there.
Sure.
You know, you're not getting your GED, or you're not learning how to be a plumber or an electrician, or, you know, in prison, you can learn those skills. So also, I think that if he is guilty, like I said, allegedly he's not necessarily guilty yet, or at all, for all we know. But if he is found, I hope that the jury does not find him innocent just because he was in jail for 10 years, because his rights were violated, obviously. But if they find him innocent, then the taxpayers in Georgia are probably going to pay out millions of dollars to this man. And I really do think when you look at his criminal record, it's like one after the other of violations. And also, since he's been in jail as well, he's not been the ideal angel of a inmate, so to speak. He's gotten into fights. I think there was a stabbing of some sort in there somewhere. Like, he's not a good guy. Let's put it that way. As far as, even if he's innocent of this crime, as far as his previous record goes and what he's done since he's been in jail, he's not a good guy. Like, you know, and I don't want to have to pay him millions of dollars because somebody feels bad that I feel bad that his rights are violated. I would not be highlighting the story if I didn't feel bad that his Sixth Amendment rights are being violated. I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. And you said you need to be gone by 6:30, 7 at the latest. So we're going to do probably 30, depending on how long we talk, by the way. We're going to do some calls. I want to let everyone know who calls in. I'm going to bring everybody up one person at a time, and I'm going to give you 2 to 3 minutes. We can't take 15-minute phone calls tonight. Probably not ever again, by the way. It gets just a little too much doing 15-minute phone calls. So we're going to put you on a timer. Number 2 is my producer tonight. She's in the background. She's going to time you guys 2 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. If you have any questions for Shane, feel free to ask him. I did tell him before we started he's allowed to decline answering any questions that he feels like he doesn't want to answer. And I assume you're open to take questions about your YouTube channel or about the case that we just discussed.
For the most part, I'm an open book. And I'd also like to say this. I think it takes a lot of balls, and I hate to talk myself up, but I think it takes a lot of balls to come into what I consider a lion's den with people that have criticized me, people that are still criticizing me, and to tell this story.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, for the most part, I'm an open book. There are very few things that I wouldn't answer. Very few things. So fire away if you got questions.
So while people are filing in, I want to say thank you to Parson1122 and to Salacious. I can talk, guys. I promise I can talk. Parsons and Salacious did make donations while we've been streaming. So we're gonna get Xena up here to give her. Look, I'm almost. You guys have bought so many donations for her. We're almost out of these milk bones. So we're gonna give her a couple of milk bones, and then it looks like I have at least one person on deck, maybe two. I'm not sure if number 2 wants to come up, but Jerry's definitely here. Let's get Xena over here. Xena, come on. Your camera doesn't work. You got to get into my camera. Come on. I tried to fix her camera while we were playing that video, but it didn't work. Let's do that. You can't even see her. All right, well, come up here. Come on. Say hi. Say hi to the people, Xena. She just licked my teeth. This is Xena, and she's my co-host normally when her camera works. I appreciate the donations. We're gonna do a high five. No, come over here. How about come over here? Come over here. Come over here. All right, ready, sit. High five. There we go. She's such a good girl. That is from Parsons. He loves you very much. He's not here to see me. He's here to see you. All right, this one's from Salacious. Salacious, do a touch. Touch? Good girl. Do a shake? Good girl. Good girl. You guys are making my dog fat. I like it. All right. So Jerry's here. And we're going to bring him in right now. Jerry, I'm kind of disappointed I'm not seeing your face right now. I thought we talked about this. We need to have cameras. You don't have to. I'm kidding. You don't have to. Jerry, nice to see you.
Just be happy I have a good mic.
You do. I'm very happy with your audio.
Thank you. I'm sorry if there's a little bit of wind. I'm outside.
It's okay.
I stated earlier in the chat that I had no gripe with him because he said that he's not going to look for fraudits, and I'm going to hold you true to that word because so far I think you've been honest. Do you think that in the future, like, it's phishing that you want to do in order to get these interactions, or you just, if anything pops up, then you're gonna open up your camera?
Depending on the situation, like if I was around a fight, I'm not the type of person that, that fight that went viral last week or whatever it was, I'm not the type of person to stand there and videotape that. If I was, I don't cop watch either, so I don't follow the cops around. I believe the only times that I would be auditing was maybe if I do flip off a cop. And when I said earlier that I flipped off every Commerce police officer that I've seen in the last 3 weeks, it was merely out of, I told the lieutenant that I was going to flip them off because until this was settled. And since it's been settled, I haven't. I live in Commerce, so I haven't flipped them off for close to a week now. But I don't plan to go out looking for audits, whatever you guys want to call them.
Well, I think for me, my major gripe is, these guys go out and they look for these interactions because they're just trying to make videos, And I've never had a problem with somebody who wants to have who's having an interaction with what they think is a bad cop and decide to record it. I've never had a problem with that.
Sure.
So I think like as far as those aspects are concerned, I wouldn't consider you a frauder. But we'll see what the future holds as far as that concerned. Now the other part I wanted to talk to you about, it's not so much everything that you went through, because I could say that maybe we have similar cases, not so much in the conviction part because I actually did the wrong thing, but in the sense that I could see a lot of anger in you, and I know that going through my situation, I had a lot of anger, and I would say, this is just advice from me. You don't have to take it. You don't I'm not a professional at anything. I think you should see a therapist about your anger issues. Honestly,
I do.
I know that it's people say therapy all the time or whatever. Trust me when I tell you, seeing a therapist helped me a lot, and it really calmed down those issues that got me, because I see it. I recognize it in you. When I saw you interact with that cop, I could see that. It's very visceral. It's almost like a PTSD thing with military men. You know what I mean? I could see that.
I would say it's closer to PTSD than anything, because like my fiance now, she would not tell you that I'm an angry person because I've never showed her an ounce of anger for anything. We've never even had an argument in the time that we've been together.
Yeah,
We've had spats, but my anger has only really come out when I'm dealing with law enforcement, such as the detective in the case that I was in, that cop that pulled me over. Again, I was having a bad day, but I was also fishing. I was wanting that interaction. Absolutely. I'll admit to it. I wanted that interaction, and I wanted to see what he would do and why he would pull me over. And it went about the way that I figured it would. I personally look back and wish I wouldn't have cussed him out. I wish I would have handled that more like Long Island Audit, Long Island Fraud. I want to be, cool with y'all. I wish I would have handled that more like some of the guys that handle things a lot calmer. And looking back on that, I wish I would have. But in the moment, it just got to me, and for whatever reason, I didn't handle it calmly.
If I could, if I could give you like a little bit of like, a sideways from what they are. See, I think their interactions are so impersonal because I think they're acting. What I saw in you wasn't an act. What I saw was actual passion. Somebody who was wrong, who wants to find somebody to put it on. You know what I mean? Like, and that's yeah.
Accurate.
And so it's like I think that's what you need to, like, if you can get it under control, whether it's religiously, whether it's through therapy, however you think you feel you need to do it. I think that's more important for you. That's all I really got to say, because I just when I see somebody who has that anger, I made mistakes doing that, being that angry, and I recognize it in people, and I'm just like, go get therapy. You know what I mean? Because that's gonna change your life. You know what I mean? You're gonna.
I'll tell you this: my therapist thinks that this interview right here is going to be a breakthrough for me. I do see a therapist. I see her once a month. I go to counseling about 3 to 4 times a month. Sometimes once a week on the counseling, depending on the time frame. I've had times where I've dealt with things better. Most of my issues come from depression and things like that. But I do see a therapist, and it has helped me a lot. Like I said, I don't carry anger around every day, but it's inside of me, and it lays dormant more than anything, and that probably hurts me more than it helps me.
Absolutely, man. Like I before I did my mistake, I had anger, and I didn't know that I had anger. I would just lash out at certain things, and I didn't know why. Like I didn't know why certain things would just trigger me, and other things wouldn't. But
Hey, Jerry, when am I going to get you on the show to talk about your mistake?
Well. My situation is really cut and dry. It's not even that crazy, but I understand the whole situation that he was talking about being in jail, about the due process and everything. Except I would say the only difference between me and you in that case is that my first public defender was a great guy. He was an absolute angel, and I wish every day that I would have got his name, because he was one of those guys that was passionate about his job. He was like, we're gonna do this and do that, and any question that I had for him, he answered it. And if I had something that was outlandish, he'll come and look for me in jail. And it was like he if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have the respect that I do for the court system that I do. So I kind of give him more leeway, because I was treated so well by that man. Also the judge that I had too. The judge was like, he wasn't gonna let the prosecutors sensationalize our thing. She was trying to throw the book at me, and the judge was like, "No, we're not gonna do that. This is the first time he's ever done anything. We're not gonna destroy his life over this situation." And I'll get it. That's a whole other thing. But yeah, I just want to hearing your story and everything, dude. I was just like, I feel that rage. I feel that anger. It's not it's not fake, and for me that's important, because these guys, everything that is a frauditor, what upsets me is that it's all fake. And I can't deal with that. I can't deal with people who want to interrupt our public workers, who want to interrupt officers when they don't really mean what they're doing. And so that's why I absolutely hate them. I don't like liars. I don't like people who are fake. And I don't see that in you. And so that's why, I just had to tell you, if you just go see a therapist, whatever it is that'll get you that peace, I know you'll understand more what our side is seeing. And it's not really about side, it's just really about seeing the decency in people.
Hey, Jerry, I've spoken to Shane a lot this week, and I think he does understand. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have him on, because I think that he's a little bit misunderstood.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty getting to know him. I like him. I like him. I like the story. I like the way he answered every question. I don't, like I said, I'm about honesty. So I know how people answer when they're honest. People who are honest don't give you a million different things when they're saying something. They say one thing and it's cut and dry, you know. So every answer that you gave was just simple. It was just like here, this, and that, right? And so that I was just like, dude, this guy's being honest, and I love it. It's refreshing to see somebody just speak honestly. And so when I see it, I recognize.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, Jerry, it's been like 7 minutes. So I
went that 2-minute rule.
Yeah, I can't help myself. But it was good talking to you, and I hope to have you on again sometime soon. Don't forget.
Thank you for your kind words, Jerry.
Yep. Next week is my birthday stream, so I'm going to let people come on my birthday stream and just hang out for a little while too. So we'll see you next week, Jerry. We'll see. Have a good one, Jerry.
Have a good one. Thank you.
So nobody else wants to talk to you, apparently. I thought I was doing the 2-minute rule because I thought a bunch of people would call in, but I guess you answered. I guess I did such a good job asking questions.
You're a great interviewer. I'll give you that.
Thank you. I'm still new. There was a couple of questions. Hold on one second. Let me scroll here for a second. There was one that I wanted to ask you, and here it is. Salacious says, stop being so dadgum responsible and you'll be one of us soon.
I think I said this earlier. Fraudit Wrangler is the one that when my video went viral, he's the one that I'd kind of noticed and saw that had criticized me. And I may not have agreed with him on my videos, but there were some videos that I've watched a lot of his stuff since then, and I agree with him on courthouses. People that audit courthouses are completely out of their minds. People will say that about me for auditing in prison, frauding in prison.
It's hard for me still to say frauded instead of audit because I'm still fairly new to this community as well.
I'm just trying to appease my haters at this point by saying frauded. I agree with a lot of things that community says and stands for. We disagree on certain things, but I don't necessarily view myself as an auditor. I view myself as somebody who will audit if given the right time, place, and manner.
And honestly, I think anybody who's a content creator would probably do the same thing. Big West the other day, who's he was an auditor and now an anti-auditor or frauditor, got pulled over, and he fired up the camera and showed people like, this is what a police interaction looks like if you're not a jerk to the cops, you know.
Sure.
And I might do the same thing. I am an innocent angel, like I've said before, so I obviously wouldn't ever get pulled over by the police.
In the times, I think that video of me flipping the cop off is the only time that I've ever been pulled over where I've cussed the cop out.
Yeah.
I don't get pulled over a whole lot because I don't speed. I actually obey traffic laws. But the times that I have been pulled over, I've never cussed the cop out until that day.
Yeah.
I've flipped cops off before that just to see, but I've never been pulled over for that until that day.
So, people they were saying that you don't seem like you're after the clicks and views, and that's something that I wanted to say. One of the first questions I asked you is about being monetized, and you weren't monetized at all until you started getting all this attention. So you're not doing this like when you did the audit of the prison, you were not monetized. You were not asking for money. I'm asking for money more than you did in any of your videos. So
I'll put it like this: I went to pull Officer Corporal Emerson's jacket to see how many complaints he had on him. That's all I wanted was his complaints.
Yeah.
I went to first I went to the police department. They told me I had to go to City Hall. I went to City Hall. I didn't film any of that. I could have, and part of me wanted to, but also part of me felt like Commerce had been hit enough. They had so many phone calls. Their Facebook got turned into a dumpster fire after that incident. So part of me wanted to leave them alone, but I did go pull his jacket. Yeah. I didn't make a video out of that. I didn't make a video out of going there. I didn't make a video out of all the complaints. And there are some pretty crazy complaints in his folder, like ones that'll make you raise an eyebrow. And he's also been bounced around to a few different police departments, you know. And so, no, I'm not looking for the clicks, because if I was, I would have made those videos and put those out and made a video about this and put this out. And I'm not. Again, if an opportunity presents itself, then
yeah,
sure, I'll fire up the camera. But if not, then I'm not going to go look for it. You know?
Yeah. And somebody was saying the whole fishing thing is kind of BS, but it seems like that was just you were having a bad day and you're like, F these guys. Like it was,
maybe that's my way of therapy. Maybe that's part of my therapy. I don't know, but it's something that I have done for quite a few years now. And out of probably 50 times that I flipped the cop off in 5 years, that's the only cop that's ever pulled me over for it. So if that doesn't tell you that one bad apple is in a bunch and can be in a bunch, then I don't know what will, because every other cop has just let it fly on past.
Yeah,
and I respect them for that.
You happen to get that one cop that day that didn't. Do you think that you're going to stop flipping off police officers now? Or are you still gonna?
I haven't, since they dismissed that ticket. I haven't, so I don't know.
Okay.
I guess we'll see. Time will tell. If you see another video, then I guess I didn't.
Okay. Would you consider, if I asked you nicely, to stop flipping off police officers? And here's where I'm coming from. Every police officer is a different human being. Most people don't like to be flipped off. They don't deserve, like, would you flip off, like, if you saw construction workers, like, there obviously might be construction workers that are assholes. Would you just flip off every construction worker that you saw?
No, I see where you're going with this.
There's officers who have just come from a really bad situation. Like, imagine the situation that you were arrested for actually happened, and they're coming from that scene interviewing a 12-year-old girl that happened to, and that weighing on their heart and their shoulders, and then they have you driving by flipping them off, and they're just trying to help people.
I'll tell you what, because my fiance has asked me to promise her I wouldn't do it again, and because you have allowed me to come on here and tell this story and get some of this off my chest and be able to, whether you realize it or not, through this I've been able to heal a little bit. Maybe not that much, and maybe I won't realize it for a little while, but I can tell that this will help in my process, whatever process and however long that takes. But since I already need to make her a promise that I won't do it again, I'll tell you that I will stop, and I'll make that promise to her when I get home.
Okay, we have a couple more people who've actually called in, so we're going to get Smith W up here to talk to you for a minute. Hi, Smith. How are you?
Not bad. How are you, Katie?
I'm good. I'm going to be here, but I'm going to turn off my camera for a second. But Shane's here to answer any questions.
Okay. I just wanted to ask, first of all, Shane, did you loot a Nike store?
No. I'm actually in a store that I run for a friend of mine.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's better. No, I did not hear most of your story because I got here late. Every once in a while, I have to go out in the world and drag back $1. So that's where I was. I was not listening. I just called in because Katie was asking for people to call in and help her fill some time. So that was my sad little shot.
I appreciate it. And I definitely suggest going back and watching the episode. Shane's story is very interesting. And I think
this is my friend Bob.
Very cute kitty. Shane's story is very interesting. And what we talked about, Maurice Jimerson is in the same situation where it's a violation of people's rights. So it needs to be talked about and word needs to be spread. And hopefully we can stop doing that. As a society.
I completely agree. I have been violated. My fourth and, well, mainly my Fourth Amendment rights were violated, but I was guilty. I just wasn't guilty that day.
Gotcha. Well, thank you very much for calling in, and thank you very much for supporting this show. I see your support, and I appreciate it so much. You have no idea how much it means to me that people like me enough to support me and hit the like button and subscribe and donate. So,
when does my membership kick back on?
I get remonetized on September, fingers crossed, I get remonetized on September 26th. So we'll see if it actually happens. But I do see that you've donated on the Buy Me a Coffee app, which most people, when YouTube monetization gets pulled, they just they're like, well, I guess I'm not supporting anymore. So I appreciate people who take that extra step to click on a different website to help out.
I'm just shooting for when you have to move that dog around with a forklift.
Well, thank you so much for calling. We're going to get Mayor Wrench McNome in here next.
Thank you. Real quick, yeah. I want to answer one of Hezekiah. I know who that is.
He's actually and he's on deck to come up and speak as well.
Okay, we'll wait for that then. We'll wait for that.
Okay, we'll get Mayor Wrench McNome in next. Mayor Wrench, good to see you.
Hi. First time watching your stream. Really happy to be here. I saw you and I'm talking about you on KFAR's channel, and I had to come and check it out and sub and everything.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask a question that many other people keep on saying. Somebody's got to ask him. So I might as well do it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the story on the tattoo?
So back in, was it 2009, I used to do a lot of methamphetamines. It's a hell of a drug. And at the same time, this night I was taking Xanax. So I went to a guy's house. They were having a tattoo party. Went to a guy's house, and the next thing I know, I woke up the next morning and had this on my neck. And my fiance at the time told me that I kept asking him for something original, to put something original on me. And he said that he would put the KFC guy on me, and I said, do it. But I don't have really any recollection of getting the tattoo. It's one of those brownout moments where I remember bits and pieces here and there, but waking up the next morning with this huge Colonel Sanders tattoo on my neck, and he's been there ever since. I tell people he's my grandfather. I try to get away with that, but
so basically, he gave you something original.
He
recipe.
gave me something original. Yeah, original recipe. I guess that was his thinking along the lines.
I have to say that Shane is so self-aware and has such a good sense of humor. I asked him if I could poke fun of his tattoo in the thumbnail, and immediately, without thought, he agreed. Yes, you should do that, and supported it completely. So that's why the Big Chicken, which is a famous KFC restaurant here in Georgia, is on the thumbnail of our.
The funny thing is, I don't even eat bone-in chicken at all.
You're not the only one with stupid tattoos. I've got one of a flying pig, and another one of Bullwinkle the Moose wearing a cheese head.
I'm just the only idiot that let him put it on my neck. Somebody that's not a very good tattoo artist, and that at the same time.
I'm glad I quit drinking 30 years ago. Otherwise, I probably would end up with something like that too.
You might have the McDonald's arch on your forehead. Well, thank you so much for calling, Mayor McWrench. I'm glad you found my channel, and come back next week. We're having a big celebration next week for my 2,000 sub benchmark and my birthday. So we'll see you next week.
I will be here with bells on. I'm very happy. I'm off work for 6 months because of surgery, so I got plenty of time.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for calling in. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. I have to click the buttons in the correct order. Hezekiah. Hi, Hez.
How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Man? I'm all right. What's up?
Shane, have you seen Hezekiah's channel?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
I've seen one of his videos on me, I believe.
Oh, okay. I missed that one.
Or maybe it was KFAR's video that I've seen. But I remember seeing you in Wrangler stream for sure.
Right, and I think I covered, I think I talked about you during one of my live streams. But I don't think I ever actually did a video on you. I actually have, for my little avatars, one of them is your Colonel Sanders tattoo. But I decided to come up here just because, you do seem like a reasonable guy. And usually I try not to talk to auditors or cop watchers, because when you do, they just want to scream and holler and argue and turn it into a mess. You seem like you're actually a person, right?
Yeah.
That someone could talk to. So here's my thing, because and not trying to pick on you for this, but trying to understand the mentality behind it, because I hear it so often when watching these auditor videos. And I just try to understand the mentality behind it. So what happened was, at one point, you're telling them but you don't have enough signs saying to this, that, and the other thing. But then when there are signs, you're like, oh, well, those signs don't override my rights. So like, how can we?
Now, the reason I said something about the signs was because if you go to Jackson County Jail, which is right next to the prison, essentially, when their building ends and the yard fences start, they have signs right next to those fences that say authorized personnel only beyond this point. There's huge walkways, like just grass walkways that you could walk down if those signs weren't there, which nobody should be. But they do have those signs there just in case, just so nobody is mistaken. That prison that I went to has 0 signs outside saying authorized personnel only, except for the one over the fence. Now, the guard line sign is a sign, but it's not a sign that keeps me off of public property because, like I was telling her before, inside that guard line is a public recreation department with baseball fields. The inmates take care of the property out there. There's a public waste management inside the guard line. There's a lot of public property inside that guard line, including that parking lot. Now, if I could go back, would I have done that audit the second time? No, I wouldn't have gone back. I wouldn't have called his bluff. I thought he was going to call Jackson County out there and they were going to tell him the same thing again. I was unaware and naive and didn't know that a warden could arrest you in Georgia. I found that out very quickly.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I probably wouldn't have gone back the second time. But I do not think that I know that I wasn't in the wrong. They didn't charge me with trespassing because they couldn't charge me with trespassing because I was on public property. And at this point, they've had to admit that. They had to admit that it was public property at the first hearing that we went to, which is the first time they've ever admitted that it was public. They tried to tell me the day they arrested me that it was private property, which is not. Where I was, not only did I GIS survey, I called the tax assessor's office before I ever went out there the first time, and it was listed as county-owned public property. The only point that I was trying to make about the signs was it would be beneficial to them. For reasons like this. I don't believe they'll ever have another auditor. I think I was the first person that ever went up there to try to do that, and will most likely be the last. I'm not sure, but they should have some sign. There's some signage. There's a lack of signage around that prison. From what I heard, I haven't been out there since my arrest, but from what I heard, they did put 2 signs up for the parking lot because it's a work release prison. So some of the inmates have jobs outside of the prison, and they have their own vehicles there. They drive. They have their own parking lot they park in. They did put some signs up over there to show that, that was authorized personnel only. So nobody that's coming to visit somebody would go to that parking lot. But outside of that, the only thing I was saying with the signage was there was a lack of signage that would be beneficial to them.
All right. Well, thank you for explaining that. And the only reason I even brought it up at all, just real quick, is because we do see so many, when we watch auditor videos all the time, there are so many of them that make this argument specifically just like as a control thing. Like if there's a sign, oh, you have to put a sign. If there isn't a sign, oh, you have to put a sign. But if you do, oh, well, that's against my rights. But they just do it as like a game, So it's like we get used to hearing that. Then we watch your video, you're talking about the signs. We're like, oh, is he doing this again? So
I get it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, cool. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in, Hez, and I will see you tomorrow morning in your chat. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye. All right, I think that's it. Nobody else is calling in. I want to say one more time, I just put the link in the chat for Freda's fundraiser. It supports the troops. It supports the Freedom Alliance, and I'll show you guys one more time if you have a second, because I'm really proud of her. She's very new to this, and instead of asking for money for herself, she decided to make shirts to support the troops. So she's got different designs here. Definitely pick one up for next 4th of July. This one here is my favorite, obviously. I'm wearing it because I think we all need to be kind, be there and be kind all the time. Veterans a lot of times have issues that are very deep and need support. So definitely support her. Check out her channel. The link is in the chat. It looks like we have one more call from Parsons. And then after that, we're going to get going. There you are. Hi, Parsons. How are you today? You have a question?
Hello. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think it's he's very brave and everything, coming up and telling his whole story, and I think it really sucks what happened to him.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think he's very brave too, and I'm glad to hear when he said that this was therapeutic for you, Shane. I'm glad that I could do that. And I think hopefully people will watch this and see that you are, like Hez said, you are a person and you're not grouped in with all of those other bad frauditors, you know? You're an auditor, like Hez says on his show all the time, an auditor and a frauditor are two different things. And I don't think we can lump you in with the frauditor category anymore.
Well, I'll leave that up to each individual person to make their assessment, just like it's up to each individual person to make their assessment on whether what I've said here today is the truth or not. I can't force anybody to believe me just because I know that I was innocent. But I can tell my story the best way that I know how, with the truth, and allow people to take what they will from that.
Yeah.
You know, and to get what they will from it.
Did you have another question or any other questions for Shane Persons?
No, that's all I really wanted to say. The only one thing, since I know Hez is in here, just let them know free News Now Voodoo.
I think News Now Voodoo might be in here too. I'm not sure. He's usually lurking.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate your support, and I appreciate you calling in, and I hopefully will see you next week as well.
Yep. All right. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye. Yeah, so like I was saying, I'm hoping that after speaking to you, I realized almost immediately that you're a good person who had some bad stuff happen to you. And just so you guys know, if you don't believe Shane because he is a frauditor in your eyes or whatever, I dug into this case. I looked up the records. I read the reports. I believe Shane. So if you don't believe Shane, believe me in saying that I don't think nothing happened to this girl, but whatever happened to her, I don't think you had anything to do with. So
I appreciate that.
And he did say, I don't know if it was a vow, but you did say that you're going to stop flipping off police. So
like I said, I've needed to make that promise. She's been asking me to make that promise to her for weeks now. Okay. And I'm going to. I will.
Yeah, just anytime and obviously you can flip off whoever you want. It is legal to do. It is just not, there's a difference between legal and moral and right. Yeah. And every single person, you don't know what they're going through that day either, you know,
no, you're right.
Just keep that in mind as a whole. And somebody said earlier, you're going to be on our side before it's over. And I think we're turning a corner here a little bit. Just be there, be kind.
I'll do that for you.
We're going to end it here, but honestly, I hope you decide you call in next week for my birthday stream just to hang out. We don't have to talk about you or frauditing or anything like that. This is a true crime channel. We like to have fun here because true crime is hard to stomach sometimes. A lot of bad stuff happens, so we like to make jokes and have a good time. And next week's going to be a lighthearted show, and I consider you a friend now.
Well, I appreciate that, and the feeling is mutual.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to play the outro. Just so you guys know, the outro song is written and performed by my friend Steven Ignoramus. You can find his links in the chat as well. Know Nothing Music on YouTube, Spotify, I don't know, all of the places. Know Nothing Music. So we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
First Florida man, and they so dope. First Florida man was hurting, and they so dope. Won't you so loco? Show off your photos, throw out your Twinkies, throw up your hoe. drills, needed a new track of land. I used to dig the Simpsons, man, bumping Biggie, Pop, Smash Mouth, and Simple Plan. No scrubs for the crease in my pimples, damn. From the south streets of southeast Michigan, hitting shuffle till I settled on a different jam. And when a dime won't do, a better nickel can. And let me tell you, when I used to dig them Simpsons, man. A funny thing about time, you can't get it back. A tight grip, but it rips the jacket. Slight lisp with a mix of traffic. You see about me, like Mr. Glass, always wished I was a whiz at graphics. Take me back to the past where the hits were massive. You can hear Gladys Knight and the Pips on plastic. Misfit molasses. Delete my contacts just so I can stick to glasses. Feel that skipped out, so I miss the classics. Aristotle of the bottle, Seneca of the sinful action, senator of the simple maxim. I swear for a skillful Saxon, I'm still relaxing. Who wanna take a dip in the mind sauce, making up for the time lost, forgetting all my past was when I sign off. Prime bribe, prime rib, Agent Smith, crime boss, popping red pills till my mind's off, mind's off. First Florida man, Endo de Soto. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Won't you solo go, show off your photos, throw out your Twinkies, throw up your ho-hos, tuck in them pinkies, them shit's a no-no. The first Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Brought to my attention by the man with the mojo. My 8th subscriber, I'm a bagoso. Jump in them sinkies and dump them mimosos. The first Florida man was Hernando de Soto. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Threw up that blue pill, moved to a new track. I slew the foothills of that voodoo sap. Microfiche tape decks, I'll sift through that, cause I'll do anything to get the old Simpsons back. Give me the news that make my mood react. I'll swim through the sewer just to make it to the truth intact. And you can shine up that voodoo with new shellac. I'll still do anything to get the old Simpsons back. Imagine thinking Karl Marx is new school Klingon like Huzu. They welcome the ways they can bring on the boots, dude. Declare a major, they get paid to pollute you. Self-ashamed neighbors never gaze when they scoop you. I wonder how we fight it. The 6th step is never enter in my tent uninvited. The 5th step is produce, no skills is no use. 4th step community preference is unity. 3rd step is nation, it's somewhat location, mostly relations, that's the situation. Next step family, patriarchal sanity. Safe under the canopy, ain't a place for anarchy. First step, I just got to say it, no showboat. Step back and soak up the logos. First